In a peaceful village surrounded by green fields and tall trees, there lived a young man named Amir. He was only 25 years old, strong, healthy, and full of dreams about the future. Every day, Amir spoke proudly about the life he wanted to build. He often told his friends and neighbors, "One day, I will become the richest farmer in this village. My land will be filled with golden crops, and people will come to me for advice and respect." His words were always filled with confidence and ambition. The villagers admired his big dreams and believed he had the potential to succeed. But despite his ambition, Amir had one serious weakness. He was extremely lazy. Every morning, before sunrise, the hard-working farmers of the village walked to their fields carrying tools and seeds. They worked under the hot sun for hours, planting crops and taking care of their land. Meanwhile, Amir stayed in bed long after the sun had risen. Instead of working, he spent his days sitting under the shade of trees, talking about success and imagining a better future. Whenever someone asked him why he was not working on his field, he would smile and say, "I'll start tomorrow." Tomorrow became his favorite word. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Amir continued dreaming, but he never took action. His field remained empty and dry while the farms around him became greener and more beautiful. Deep inside, Amir truly wanted success, but he avoided the hard work and discipline needed to achieve it. He loved the idea of becoming successful, but he hated the effort required to get there. The villagers slowly began to notice the difference between Amir's words and his actions. They realized that ambition alone was not enough. A dream without action was only an illusion. One evening, Amir's wise old uncle visited him. The uncle looked across the empty field and sighed deeply. The soil was rich and full of potential, yet nothing was growing there. Calmly, the old man asked, "Amir, my son, why is your land still empty? You speak of success every day, but your field tells a different story." Amir laughed carelessly and replied, "Don't worry, uncle. I will begin tomorrow." The old man looked at him silently, knowing that tomorrow might never come unless Amir changed his life. One quiet evening, as the sun slowly disappeared behind the hills, Amir sat outside his small house dreaming once again about the successful future he wanted. He imagined himself standing proudly in a field full of golden crops while the villagers admired him. In his mind, he was already rich and respected. But in reality, his land remained empty and dry because he still had not done any real work. That evening, Amir received a visit from his uncle, an old farmer known throughout the village for his wisdom and experience. The old man had spent his entire life working hard on the land, and people respected him not because of his words, but because of his actions. As he approached Amir's field, he stopped and looked around carefully. The soil was rich and fertile, yet there was not a single crop growing there. The uncle turned to Amir and asked gently, "My son, why is your field still empty? Every time I see you, you speak about becoming successful, but your land tells another story." Amir smiled confidently and replied, "Uncle, don't worry. I have many plans. Soon this field will become the best in the village. I'll start working tomorrow." The old man sighed quietly because he had heard the same answer many times before. He understood that Amir's problem was not a lack of ambition, but a lack of action. Instead of arguing with him, the uncle decided to teach him an unforgettable lesson. Slowly, the old man reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 small cloth bags. He placed them carefully into Amir's hands. Amir looked confused and asked, "What are these?" The uncle smiled and said, "Inside these bags are 2 special seeds. They are not ordinary seeds. Each one represents a different path in life." He opened the first bag and showed Amir a bright, healthy seed. "This," he explained, "is the ambition seed. If you plant it and care for it every single day, it will grow into a strong tree that brings fruit, shade, success, and wealth." Then he opened the second bag, which contained a darker seed. "And this," he said seriously, "is the laziness seed. It grows quickly, without effort, but it spreads weeds everywhere. Those weeds will destroy your entire field and choke everything good around them." Amir listened silently as his uncle placed both seeds in his hands and said, "Your future depends on which seed you choose to nurture. Remember, ambition only grows through daily effort, but laziness grows by itself." After his uncle left, Amir sat alone thinking about the two magical seeds resting in his hands. One seed represented ambition and success, while the other represented laziness and destruction. Deep inside, Amir knew exactly which path he wanted to follow. He dreamed of becoming wealthy, respected, and admired throughout the village. He looked at the ambition seed and told himself confidently, "Of course I will plant this one. My future will be bright." But when morning arrived, Amir woke up feeling tired and unmotivated. The sun was already rising above the fields, and the villagers had begun their daily work. Amir looked outside, stretched lazily, and whispered, "I'll do it tomorrow." Then he rolled back into bed and fell asleep again. The next day was no different. Every morning, Amir remembered the seeds, but he always found another excuse to delay his work. Sometimes he said the weather was too hot. Other times he claimed he needed more rest before starting such an important task. Deep down, he believed there would always be more time later. Days passed, then weeks. Finally, out of boredom and curiosity, Amir walked to his empty field carrying both seeds. Instead of carefully choosing the ambition seed and giving it proper attention, he lazily planted both seeds without much thought. He laughed to himself and said, "Let's see what happens. I can take care of them later." But later never came. Amir continued spending his days sleeping under trees, talking with friends, and imagining a successful future without doing any real work. He completely forgot about the seeds growing quietly in the soil. One afternoon, after many weeks had passed, Amir finally decided to visit his field. As he approached the land, his heart suddenly sank. The field no longer looked empty, but instead of healthy crops, thick dark weeds had spread everywhere across the soil. The weeds twisted around the ground like snakes, choking the life out of the field. They had grown fast and wild, covering almost every corner of the land. Amir quickly searched for the ambition seed. At last, he found it hidden beneath the weeds. The small plant looked weak, dry, and close to dying. Its leaves were pale because nobody had watered or cared for it. Fear and regret filled Amir's heart. At that moment, his uncle arrived and silently observed the ruined field. The old man looked at Amir and said softly, "Now you understand. Laziness grows quickly on its own, but ambition needs daily care. If you ignore your dreams, laziness will slowly destroy them." Amir stared at the dying plant with tears in his eyes. For the first time in his life, he realized that dreams without action eventually become nightmares. Amir stood silently in the middle of his ruined field while the cold wind moved through the thick weeds surrounding him. The once fertile land now looked dark, wild, and lifeless. Everywhere he looked, the weeds had spread without control, stealing the sunlight, water, and space from everything around them. In the center of the field, the tiny ambition seed struggled to survive, weak and nearly dead. His uncle slowly walked beside him and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Amir's eyes were filled with regret as he stared at the dying plant. Deep inside, he knew this disaster was nobody's fault except his own. Finally, the old man broke the silence. "Amir," he said softly, "this field is a reflection of your life." Amir lowered his head in shame. The uncle continued, "When I gave you the seeds, I was not only talking about farming. I was teaching you about the battle inside every human heart. The ambition seed represents dreams, goals, and success. But ambition is fragile. It cannot survive on words alone. It needs discipline, sacrifice, and daily effort. Without action, even the greatest dream will slowly die." Then the old man pointed toward the thick weeds covering the land. "And this," he said, "is laziness. Laziness does not need care. It grows naturally. The longer you ignore it, the stronger it becomes. Soon it spreads into every part of your life and destroys your future before you even realize it." Amir listened carefully, and every word felt painfully true. He suddenly remembered all the mornings he chose sleep over work, all the promises he made but never kept, and all the opportunities he wasted while waiting for the perfect tomorrow. He had always believed that dreaming was enough. But now he understood that dreams without action slowly become empty illusions. Tears filled Amir's eyes as he knelt beside the weak plant. He gently touched its dry leaves and whispered, "I did this to myself." For the first time in his life, Amir truly saw the cost of laziness. It had stolen his time, his energy, and the future he once imagined so clearly. The pain in his heart was heavier than the hard work he had always tried to avoid. That night, Amir could not sleep. While the village rested quietly, he sat alone thinking about his life. He realized something important. If he continued living the same way, nothing would ever change. His dreams would continue dying one day at a time. Looking out toward the dark field, Amir made a decision. He whispered firmly to himself, "No more waiting for tomorrow. If I want a better life, I must change today." The next morning, before the first light of sunrise touched the village, Amir opened his eyes. For a moment, he wanted to stay in bed like he always had before. His body felt heavy, and the comfort of sleep called to him. But then he remembered the dying ambition seed, the weeds covering his field, and the painful words of his uncle. He realized that if he continued living the same way, his future would disappear completely. Slowly, Amir stood up and walked outside into the cool morning air. The village was still quiet, and most people were asleep. For the first time in many years, Amir picked up his tools before sunrise and walked toward his field with determination in his heart. When he arrived, the sight of the weeds shocked him once again. They covered almost every part of the land, thick and tangled like a prison around his dreams. Amir took a deep breath and began pulling them out with his bare hands. The work was harder than he expected. The weeds had deep roots, and removing them took strength and patience. The hot sun rose higher in the sky, burning his skin. His back ached from bending over for hours, and his hands became red and sore. Several times, Amir wanted to stop and rest. A voice inside his mind whispered, "This is too difficult. You can finish tomorrow." But this time, Amir refused to listen. He remembered how laziness had nearly destroyed his life, and he knew that giving up now would only bring him back to the same miserable future. So he continued working, one weed at a time. Day after day, Amir returned to the field before sunrise. He cleared the land carefully and watered the weak ambition seed every morning and evening. At first, the changes were small. The plant still looked fragile, and the field remained rough and damaged. But Amir did not quit. He finally understood that success was not built in a single day. It was built through small actions repeated every day with discipline and patience. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, the ambition seed began to grow stronger. Its leaves became greener, and its roots pushed deeply into the soil. As the seasons passed, the tiny plant transformed into a healthy tree that provided fruit, shade, and beauty to the land. Amir's once empty field became one of the most beautiful farms in the village. But the greatest transformation was not the field, it was Amir himself. The lazy young dreamer who once delayed everything had become hardworking, disciplined, and respected. The villagers admired him not because of his words anymore, but because of his actions. People often spoke about Amir as the man who defeated laziness and changed his destiny through determination and hard work. Amir's story soon became famous throughout the village. People no longer remembered him as the lazy young man who spent his days sleeping and talking about impossible dreams. Instead, they saw him as a symbol of transformation, discipline, and perseverance. His beautiful field, once covered with weeds, now stood as proof that hard work and daily effort could completely change a person's life. But the most important part of Amir's journey was not the wealth he earned or the respect he gained. The true lesson was much deeper than farming. It was a lesson about human nature and the choices every person must make each day. Inside every human heart, there are two invisible seeds. The first seed is ambition. It represents dreams, goals, hope, and the desire to build a better future. This seed exists inside students who want success in school, workers who dream of a better career, artists who want to create something meaningful, and ordinary people who simply want a happier life. Ambition gives people vision and purpose. It inspires them to imagine what their future could become. But ambition alone is never enough. Just like Amir's seed, ambition is fragile. It cannot grow from words, excuses, or empty promises. It needs daily care. It grows only when people choose discipline over comfort, action over delay, and hard work over laziness. Even small efforts repeated every day can slowly turn dreams into reality. The second seed is laziness. Unlike ambition, laziness requires no effort to grow. It appears quietly in the form of excuses, procrastination, and endless waiting. It whispers dangerous words like, "You can start tomorrow," or "There is still plenty of time." At first, laziness may seem harmless, but over time it spreads like weeds across a field. It steals opportunities, destroys confidence, wastes time, and slowly kills dreams before they ever have a chance to grow. That is why Amir's story matters to everyone. Many people spend years dreaming about success while never taking the first step. They wait for perfect conditions, more motivation, or the right moment. But life changes only when action begins. The lesson is simple. Do not wait for tomorrow to build the life you want. Start today, even if the first step feels small. Pull the weeds of laziness out of your mind before they take control of your future. Water your ambition every single day with effort, patience, and consistency. Because in the end, your future will grow from the seed you choose to nurture. And just like Amir discovered, the battle between ambition and laziness will decide the direction of your entire life.